one thing to keep in mind during the presentation and during the look into this product is, with security, there really is no one single way to stay protected. There needs to be multiple layers of security, multiple ways to keep your endpoints secure and to keep users from doing things they shouldn't be doing. So with ESET, you do get a multi-layered solution, and I'll be glad to show you guys more about that as we go along into the product. Real quick, a little bit about our company. ESET's actually been around for over 25 years now. So we've been around for quite some time, and we've actually become the second largest AV vendor in the world. Now, since day one, the primary focus of ESET has always been on antivirus. It's not like it was a company that was founded on another platform and then made its way into AV like some of the other ones that are out there. ESET has been focused on antivirus since day one. And one of the key things, key pieces of that focus has always been to have a high level of detection with a minimal level of false positives, and do this without the end user having to compromise on performance. So because of this, we've become an award-winning platform. So let's move on to the next slide. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Let's try that one more time. There we go. And we'll talk a little bit about what you can install ESET on. And really the short answer is almost everything. Cross-platform support. So it could be Windows devices, Mac devices, Linux devices, Android devices, tablets, laptops, desktops, servers, file servers, email servers, whatever it is that you need to protect within your environment. You can use ESET to protect all the devices, and not only can you do that, but then it's managed from one centralized dashboard. So you don't have a separate dashboard for your mobile devices, another dashboard for your servers, another one for the laptops and desktops. It's all under one location. Now, a quick overview of how ESET is managed in an environment and how it functions within that environment. It's a pretty straightforward setup, actually. I know this graph may look like there's quite a bit going on, but it really is not as complicated as it looks. You'll set up the ERA server, the ESET Remote Administrative server, on one of your servers on site. You don't need a dedicated server only to ESET. You can have multiple tools running on that server at the same time. And then you'll set up the ERA Remote Administration console. Now, this console, of course, can be accessed on that server, but can also be accessed on other devices within the network. So you don't have to actually be on that server to manage ESET. You could be on your desktop or your laptop in your office without having to actually get onto that server where ESET's located. But not only can you do that within the network, you can also set up a gateway server if you wanted to be able to access it from outside of the network. So this way, if you're at home or on the go, you can pull up the ERA server from your mobile device or laptop or desktop, really anything at the web browser. And that way you're able to manage your devices. So if there was something that happened, there's a threat that broke out and you need to resolve that and you're not on site, you're maybe on vacation or something like that. Heaven forbid you have to work on vacation. But if it happens, you can still resolve those issues without having to be on site. Also, from that ESET Remote Administrative console, you'll deploy the ESET client to all of your devices. And like I mentioned before, when I say all, I mean all. Could be your virtual machines, could be your mail server, laptops, desktops, mobile devices, you name it. So like I said, I didn't want to bore you guys with a long drawn-out PowerPoint deck. I wanted to spend more time in the solution. So we'll jump into the live product demo now. And we'll start off with the endpoint client. I'll definitely want to show you guys the ERA, the management side of things. That's really where all the magic happens. But I still wanted to start off to show you the endpoint client and kind of some of the different cool things you can do on the local machine. And the first thing I want to point out is we really took into consideration how viruses work and how these guys are getting into your devices and really causing chaos. And most of the time, if a virus enters a device, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to try to disable the antivirus solution if there is one on there. So because of this, I have my task manager pulled up. We made it so that ESET cannot be disabled. I can go in here, I can click on that ESET service, I can hit end task all day long, but as you can see, the task doesn't stop. I cannot end that ESET task. And if I can't do it, that means that virus that's trying to do the exact same thing can't do it either. Another thing, all the different types of protection that you have available on ESET on the local machine, the real-time scanner, for example, if a user wants to turn it off, the user's going to get smart and they're trying to install software, but the AV won't let them do it. So the first thing they'll do is, I'm going to turn it off. Well, I can turn it off because I'm an administrator. I have the ability. I'm still being warned, and I can still choose how long I want to set this for. But you can password protect this, so that way your users can't do this. You can make sure that only administrator can disable the protection, and even if they are a local admin on that machine, it doesn't matter. They would still have to put in the password that you create within the ESET Remote Administrator. Now, if you're on the machine and you need to install software, you need to do something without the AV, or you need to test something, you can disable it temporarily if you need to. Now, I did just try to disable the real-time scanner, and I'm going to get to a little bit more about the scanning out here in a few minutes, because there's some really cool things we can do with that. But a couple things. I'm going to jump over to web and email that I want to point out the endpoint. The web access protection. Obviously, viruses can enter a device multiple ways, and we are putting multiple layers in place. Like I mentioned, you need multiple layers to protect against the spread of viruses on a device. But one of the key ways that a virus can enter a device is through a website. Could be a drive-by download, could be a malicious website. There's a lot of different ways this can happen. So with our web access protection, basically ESET has system-level drivers that will scan a website before the user can even access it. So this way we make sure that even the unknown threats that we don't know about are still being blocked before they even enter the web browser. And the user should see no slowdown in their connection or anything, even though all this is going on in the background. Another thing, the email client protection. Now, this will be a reoccurring theme here, but that multi-layered security approach. With the email client protection, we do have the multiple layers of protection going on. There is going to be protection on the server, and that's going to catch threats before they can even reach the device. But just in case, if something were to get by that server, we have that email client protection. So that way, mail gets scanned in real time, and if there's a threat detected, at that point you'll have multiple options on really what happens next. Maybe you move it to a separate folder, maybe it gets quarantined, you can delete it, or you can have the software delete it. And you have options to configure this in the policy settings. So that way, whatever you need to have happen, it happens. So let me jump into the advanced setup real quick. And just like with the ability to turn things on and off, the local machine, all of the options in here are also can be password protected to make sure that if you've set something up remotely, you don't want the users making changes to that. They can't get into these different features, but like I said, I'm an administrator of my own environment, so I can do this myself. But first thing I want to talk about is the scanning. So the way we do our scanning is a little bit different than a lot of other companies that are out there. I mentioned earlier about how we want to make sure that there's no compromise in performance. So when we run a scan, we're going to make sure it's as minimal as possible. And actually, our scans will only take between 60 and 180 megs to actually run that scan. So even if you do run a scan midday while a user's on the computer and they're working, they should not notice a difference in their computer's performance while that scan is being run. Now, a couple other things too about these scans that are being run in the background. Potentially unwanted applications. This is something that unfortunately happens more often than it should. Sometimes a user downloads a piece of software, it's a legitimate piece of software, or maybe they go to update something like Flash, and they don't read the fine print. They forget to uncheck a checkbox that's in the very bottom, and they accidentally download some kind of coupon application or something like that, and then their machine starts slowing down. They're calling you, they're complaining. It's a hassle have to deal with, and then have to explain to them what they did wrong. So during the scans, you can have it just remove potentially unwanted programs. Just get rid of those programs. This way you don't have to deal with it, and the user's not complaining. And even if they do make that mistake, we can kind of fix it for them. And one other thing I want to point out on the scans real quick is our shared local cache. So maybe within the environment, there are similar items that are being picked up on multiple items, maybe, or multiple devices, things that you guys use on a regular basis, and you don't want to have to add an exception on every device, or to go to different devices and set things up. So with the shared local cache, if it's detected on one device and we say it's okay, it's going to apply that to all the devices. So once again, we're making sure that these scans are not bogging down systems. We're making sure they're scanning as little as possible. And with that shared local cache, you can minimize that even more within the entire environment. So there's a lot of other things that we can look at on the local device, but at the same time, same things can be viewed within the remote administrator. And that really is, like I said before, where all the magic happens. So I'm just going to switch to the remote admin and let you guys see what it looks like, because this is what you will be dealing with. This is your piece of the solution. This is not what the end users are going to be getting into. So let me just log in first. And we'll get back to the dashboard because that's where it normally starts. I was messing with some things earlier. So something I want to point out real quick. This dashboard is just it's a great starting point whenever you get into your ESET console, just to kind of see what's going on within your environment. Are there any issues? If it's green, everything's great. If there's yellow, you may want to take a look at it. If it's red, you probably need to stop what you're doing and take care of that. Now, this is the demo environment. In this scenario, I make sure that it's red so that way you guys can see what it looks like. So I'm not going to worry about my end, but in a regular scenario, you'd probably want to address some of these red alerts that you're getting in this dashboard, and you can go straight to these issues. There's a security notification here. I can click on detailed information, and I can find out what device is that going on, what it is that's going on in particular, and I can address that. But something else too with this is the way we have this dashboard set up is not on accident. This is on purpose. We actually configured the dashboard to really show what we think are best practices. If we set this up out of the box, so that way it should be as easy as possible for you to start managing this immediately. But also, if there is an issue, if there is something that you need help with, if you just have questions or your concerns, anything like that, our support is US based. As you know, we are a network security group. We are a reseller of ESET, so we of course can help you out. But also ESET support is US based, so you have multiple levels of support if there is an issue that you guys run into. So this dashboard, not only like I mentioned, is it set up for best practices, but we also break it up into different categories. So if you just wanted to go straight to see if there was any AV threats or firewall threats or anything going on with the ESET application, you can go straight to that. You can customize these, and maybe you'd rather see another type of chart. Maybe you would rather make it, or maybe you want to make adjustments to the current chart, or maybe you want to add your own charts or add your own tabs in here. You can customize this dashboard all you want to make sure that the information that you want to see is available in front of you as soon as you log in. You might not want to see what ESET thinks you should be seeing. You might want to see your own information. So customize this all you want. Do whatever you want to do here. So let's jump into the next tab, the computers tab. So I mentioned earlier how it doesn't matter what type of device it is, cross-platform, different types of servers and different operating systems, it's all going to be visible and manageable through the ERA console here. And not only is it all in here, but we also allow you to have groups in here, so that way you can kind of space them out if you want to, or manage them separately if you needed to. If you wanted to manage your Linux devices only, or your Mac computers only, or your mobile devices, which I don't have any in here right now. But the thing is, you can separate this out and do whatever it is that you need to do, which actually I do have a Mac in there. I need to adjust that. So we have all these computers in here, and we can, obviously see them and everything. And what's really cool too is that, like Windows devices, for example, we can work on just about any Windows operating system. I mean, we can install ESET on a Windows NT device. Microsoft doesn't even support Windows NT anymore, but if you need protection on an NT device, you can still do so. And I was hoping to have some devices that need yeah, here we go. Something else too is if there are devices that need attention, you need to update the virus signatures, or even the operating system is out of date. This has nothing to do with ESET, but still could be a security flaw. I don't know if you guys heard about the WannaCry ransomware that came out recently, which ESET is able to take care of, but its main thing is it was exploiting outdated Windows machines. It was going after device or machines that had not performed their update. So, and this is not exclusive to just that one piece of ransomware. This is what a lot of those different viruses will do, is they'll go after machines that are not up to date. So we want to make sure that your devices are up to date with your operating system. Now, of course, you have ESET on the machine as well, so you still have that antivirus protection, but it's better to be safe than sorry in any scenario like that. Okay, so here's something that's pretty cool. So this device right here, it is one of the machines I have in here. There's obviously it's not up to date with the operating system, but not only can I take care of that from here, but I can run other tasks as well. Maybe I need to reboot the device. Maybe I wanted to run a scan. Maybe I wanted to update the virus definitions if they were out of date, which they're not. Or I can run any other task I want to as well. I can add a task in here to do whatever it is that I need to do. I've got a few tasks in here already. So that way you can really perform all kinds of things directly from this computer tab that we're seeing on the screen right now. And actually, let me go back to my computers tab. There we go. Something else too is we can see the details on a device. Now, this is pretty cool for multiple reasons. Well, number one, it shows you, what ESET version has been installed on the device. It shows you device information, operating system, MAC address, network adapters, device identification, which is really cool. Now, this is a virtual machine, so mine's a little bit different here. But say an end user needs help to fix an issue on their device, and you need their model number from the machine. They don't know where to find that, or they don't know how to differentiate between a 0 and an O. You can just look at it directly from here. You don't have to rely on the user to help you out with that. And this shows you all kinds of other things as well. If any tasks have been executed on the device, you can see a list of installed applications. Now, mine is set right now. It's only showing me the ESET, but you can see third-party applications too. Maybe you want to know if Chrome has been installed on a device, or you want to see other applications that are on there. You can easily view that from here. If there's any alerts that are outstanding, like right now my firewall is disabled, I know about that, and the operating system is not up to date, which we already knew about. If there's any threats or anything in the quarantine, you can view that from here as well. And then the sys inspector is pretty cool. So I can open this up. So say there was an issue on a device. Someone's calling you in or calling you up and say, my computer's slow, or I think I have a virus, or this or that. You can run the sys inspector remotely. You don't have to touch the device. You don't even have to leave your desk. And you can see what processes are currently running on that device, what network connections are on there, registry entries, services that are running, drivers, all kinds of stuff. So this way you can really find out a lot of what's going on the device. We even show you, if you want to see different risk levels, you can find out what they are on the device from here. If there's any critical files, what are they? So you can get a lot of insight, a lot of help with your supporting of your endpoints without even having to touch the device, without having to even leave your ESET Remote Administrator. All right. So, and actually, let me backtrack just for a second and go back in here, because I did want to point something out. When we look at the basics in here, we show you the ESET security products, and we let you know kind of what's running on a machine. When you're deploying ESET to your different endpoints, it's typically a two-step process. The first step is getting the agent on there, and that agent will establish communication. It allows you to remotely perform certain tasks via this ERA server. And then the second piece of that would be to actually install the endpoint client, the actual AV, a part of ESET. So even if you've only installed the agent, you haven't even gotten the security on there, you can gain insight into a device. You still can perform tasks on that device. So even if you're not using ESET for antivirus for all your machines, you can still have that agent running on there to allow you the abilities to remotely push out items or run tasks on there. All right, so let's move on to the reports tab. So the reporting is really cool. It's one of my favorite things about this product, because I've worked with a lot of other solutions in the past, some AV solutions, some others, and I've been really impressed with ESET's reporting capabilities. I mean, you have tons of reports that are out of the box, ready to go, ready to be sent out right now, that you can just generate at any time, or you can create a schedule to generate these reports, whatever it is that you want to do, or you can create your own reports. So if for some reason this large list of reports isn't enough for you, you can't find the information that you need in here, all right, make your own report. Create whatever report that you want to create, or you can edit one of the existing reports. So if the active threats report, if you wanted to add information to that or remove information from it, you can go in here and you can edit one of these reports and put in whatever it is that you want to see, whatever types of charts you want to have. It's completely customizable. So let me move now to the admin page, because this is where, this is probably where you'll do the most amount of work in this remote administrative tool. I know I said earlier that this is where the magic happens, but this really is where the magic happens, because there's a lot you can do here. And the first thing I want to point out is it always starts you off with help and support. The last thing that you want to happen is you don't want to get lost in this product, or, oh, how do I do that? Or what do I do here? Or, oh, how did he do that during the demo? I want to try that on my own computer. So we start you off with the help. You can go straight to the knowledge base. You can go straight to the help. You can go straight to the instructional videos section of our YouTube page. I don't know about you guys. I'm really big on watching videos. I'm not a huge manual reading fan. I don't like to spend a lot of time reading manuals. I'd much rather watch a 3-minute video that tells me how to, disable pop-ups and notifications. We'll use that as an example. It's only 1 minute long, but I would rather do that. I like to be able to see it and then be able to recreate it myself instead of reading it in a manual. So I'm a big video person, but that's just me. But if you would rather read manuals or read the knowledge base, go for it. It's up to you. All right, so let me kind of move down the list here. Users. So when you install the ESET Remote Administrative tool, you'll be able to create your own admin account. You'll have complete access to everything in here. But we still recommend creating a separate user account, so that way you have kind of a backup. But you can also add additional users. You can have other administrators in this tool. You can give them different rights, different access levels. So that way, if you do have other IT people on staff that you want to share administration of ESET with, or if you want to give certain people maybe read-only access, you can add as many users as you need to with those, like I said, different levels of administrative privileges. All right, so let's go on to certificates. Now, when you install the ESET Remote Administrator, if you have an Active Directory environment, you have the ability to import the list of users and devices in here, and it'll separate everything out the same way you have it separated out in Active Directory, so that way you don't have to go through and recreate anything. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. It's already set up for you. But if you don't have Active Directory, or you don't want to use the import option, but you still want to be able to group your devices, you can create certificates through the ESET product and assign these certificates. So really, you can do this in a way to you can distribute different certificates to different devices and then have them grouped together. So maybe you have multiple locations. You have a campus in North Carolina, another campus in Georgia, another campus in Tennessee, or whatever the case may be. Each campus can have their own certificate. So that way it organizes them within the ESET Remote Administrator to give you visibility and to see which devices are checking in from what locations, and you can group them that way. So licenses are licenses. You probably don't need me to explain this. It is a licensed product. One thing I do want to point out though about this license section is if you are interested in testing out ESET in your own environment, you want to get this set up, you want to see how it runs, try it before you buy it, no problem. And if you do so, you get the full-blown solution. We're not just going to give you a watered-down version of the product. You'll get the whole product to test out. But say at the end of your trial, you say, I love this. I want to keep it going. I don't want to have to go back and reconfigure everything. All right, just add your license key. And everything that you've set up previously will remain exactly how you had it set up before, and that way you don't have to go back and do it all over again. All right, so let's move on to computers. So as I mentioned earlier, during the initial setup, you can integrate Active Directory to pull in your list of devices, even deploy to those devices. Even if you don't do it initially, no big deal. You can do it at any time under the computer section. But if you are not using Active Directory, or even if you are and you want to see if there's other devices on your network that might not be joined to Active Directory, maybe you want to deploy ESET to those rogue devices, you can. And basically we'll scan your entire network and we'll look for every single machine that we were able to detect. And the thing is, you can then remotely deploy ESET to these devices. Now, there is a catch to that, of course. I mean, if someone has their personal computer on your network and you don't want to be able to deploy ESET without them knowing it on their personal computer, you would still have to have rights to that device. But say there were devices that maybe you forgot about. Maybe there's a closet somewhere with a computer turned on and you forgot all about it, and it still serves a purpose and you still need protection. You can run this rogue scan, find any devices that you may or may not know about, and then you can go ahead and deploy the ESET product to that device. But not only that, but when you go to add ESET to devices, you have multiple options when it comes to actually installing ESET on your computers. Oops, I went to the wrong section. Sorry, guys. I got a little bit of click happy there. There we go, agents. So you have multiple, I mentioned earlier there's a two-step process. You get that agent on the machine first, and then after the agent's on the machine, then you can go ahead and deploy the ESET endpoint client. So you can do local deployment, which actually is a one-step process. This will actually install the agent and then go ahead and put the ESET endpoint client on there. The remote deployment, if you wanted to push this out through a group policy, maybe you wanted to push it out through another solution. Whatever it is that you may want to do, set it up in a batch script, push it out as an executable or as MSI file. You can do the remote deployment option. The agent live installer, this would be if you wanted to maybe put it on like a flash drive and just go from computer to computer, install it that way. Server task is probably my favorite. This allows you to push it out remotely from this admin console. So I could go ahead, create that new task. It's agent deployment. I could set parameters. I can put in, maybe I have my admin username and password that I'm going to use to install it onto my devices. I can choose which servers I want to deploy this to. Even set triggers, maybe like after the next reset or something like that. So that way I can push this agent out without even touching a device. And the last thing we really want to talk about on this section, under the status overview, is the SMTP settings. Not going to spend a lot of time here though. This is really just for emailing out alerts and reports. If you want to receive a notification that there's an issue in your email, you don't want to have to look at this console, or you want to have a report sent out to you maybe weekly or monthly or quarterly, you want it sent out in an email. So you can set up your SMTP server settings so that way ESET can send out those reports and alerts via email. So I'm going to move on to the dynamic group templates because this is pretty cool. So we do have pre-configured groups in here. And you can create your own groups in here too. But what these do, you might have static groups that never change, but these dynamic groups can change at any time. If an operating system is not up to date, the device will move into this group. You update that operating system, the device is no longer meets those parameters, so it leaves that group. But you can create as many of these templates as you want and have different details. Whoops. Let me actually edit this one. So we'll just say I want to know what devices have Chrome installed on them. So I created this group. I named it Chrome. Conditions are true that installed software application name equals Chrome. Now you can of course adjust this and change other items in here as well. So that way it'll go through, it'll check every device that I've installed the ESET endpoint or ESET agent on, and if it detects that there's a device that has Chrome on it, it'll automatically move it into this dynamic group. Now I'll show you something really cool. If I jump into client tasks, maybe I don't want Chrome installed on my devices. I want, it's just not something I want on the machines. On the policies. So if I do not want Chrome on a device, I can go into my groups here. There's that Chrome group right there. And, I don't have any computers in here. That's good for now. But I want to, I'd like run a task. And in this task, I want to remove Chrome. I want to get rid of it. So I can do a software uninstall. And in that software uninstall, I can tell it to uninstall Chrome. So that way, if Chrome is detected on a device, it goes into that group. It'll uninstall Chrome automatically. Then that device leaves that group. So I don't have to go through and check all of my devices one at a time to see if Chrome is installed. And then if it is, then I have to uninstall it manually. That's way too much work. This is great. Maybe torrent software. That's probably a better example than Chrome. Chrome is not something that you really need to concern yourself with too much. But if there's torrent software, you can set it up to look for any kind of any software containing the word torrent. If it contains that, it automatically goes into that group. It runs that task. It removes the torrent software. The device leaves that group. Pretty simple, but pretty effective as well. All right, so let's move on to client tasks. All right, so you can see what's running currently within client tasks. So if you want to see, like right now I've got, it looks like some server deployments, maybe other tasks that I've created that I unfortunately I didn't actually name, which makes it much harder to actually manage. But I would recommend naming your tasks so that way you don't have to look at a bunch of new tasks and figure out what's going on. But you can see current tasks. You can also create new tasks as well. So like I mentioned before, if you wanted to create that task to push out software or remove software or whatever it is that you might want to do, you can do so from here. It could be an ESET related task, could be an operating system related task. Maybe I want to run a command on a device. Maybe I have certain commands that I run or maintenance scripts or something like that. And maybe I do it maybe once a month or quarterly or something like that. So I can set it up in here. So I don't have to go through and manually run it or touch every device. I can put in that command line that I want to run. I can choose my parameters to make sure that it runs at a certain day or a certain time or whatever it is I want to do and choose which devices I want to run it on. So that way it's pretty straightforward. I don't have to put as much work into this anymore. I can have ESET take care of a lot of my maintenance tasks for me. All right. So I will move on now to notifications. Because this is, obviously if there's an issue, you want to know about it. If there was software that wasn't supposed to be on a machine, if there was a security threat that was detected on a device, if a device is out of date with its software, you want to know about that. So we have pre-configured notifications that you can go through. You can choose which ones you want to be notified of or which ones you might not want to be notified of. But just like with the reports that I showed you guys earlier, you can either stick with what we offer. You can edit these as well. Maybe you want to change the configuration of this alert, or you can create a brand new notification, whatever it is that you want to be notified of. Pick and choose from maybe an existing template or different levels of configuration, different levels of throttling or different settings, whatever it is that you want to go through and configure within that notification. You can set your own parameters. So that, going back to that torrent software, maybe you want to know if there's torrent software. You want to know if it went to that dynamic group and uninstalled the software. So maybe you can create an alert or a notification to let you know. All right, so one other thing I want to get into on here is license management, and I'm actually going to jump into something else right after license management. So you can see which licenses are being used, how many devices are using those licenses. I have a demo license, so mine is not going to show, unfortunately. But what's nice about this is maybe you purchased 100 licenses, just throw a number out there, and you're only using 80 of those licenses currently, and you've got a new shipment of computers that you need to go ahead and configure and set up for the school. When you look at the licenses, it'll let you know, okay, great, I've only used 80 of my 100. I still have 20 licenses to use. Or there's a budget meeting coming up and they're saying, well, how many are you using what you're paying for? And you can say, yeah, look, we're using all of our licenses, or maybe we need more licenses, so we can find it through here. So there's a lot you can really pull through by just looking at the license management. All right, so the last thing I really wanted to take a look at today was policies. We have built-in policies, and the built-in policies, you can pick and choose which ones you want to apply to the different devices. But just like with a lot of other things in here, you can create your own policies, you can customize your own. I would not recommend making changes to the built-in ones. That way, the last thing, you don't want to go through and make a bunch of changes and then say, oh, I screwed up. Now I'm stuck with this. I don't remember what it was like before. So instead of making changes to our policies or ESET's policies, you can go through and you can create a new one, or you can copy one. Maybe I want to copy this one, or this antivirus balanced. It's a good policy, but I just want to make a couple tweaks to it. So what I can do is I can copy it, and then I can create a brand new policy, and then within that new copy, I can make changes to that copy without making any changes to the one that came from ESET. Now, let me edit this policy because it is one of my custom policies. So I can do, ESET policy for Windows, for Mac, for Android, for really any of the different operating systems that we can cover, different types of machines that we can cover. We can have separate policies for any one of those. I'll just go with the Windows one because it's at the top here. And you can kind of go step by step in this policy and figure out what you want to make changes to, what you want to turn on, what you want to turn off. Do you want to scan for those potential unwanted programs? Do you want to scan for unsafe applications? I probably would. That shared local cache, stuff that we saw on the local device earlier, can be set up in here. Removal of media. We want to make sure that automatic device scan begins as soon as someone plugs it in. Last thing I want is for a student to bring in a flash drive from home that could have an infection on it, plug it into one of the school computers, and infect the entire network. That's going to be a lot of work that we don't want to have to deal with. So we're just going to go ahead and run an automatic device scan as soon as they plug that into the computer to make sure that they're not spreading anything throughout the network. You can set different levels of or different times to run updates, or how frequently you want ESET to update. You can actually use the firewall built in. You don't have to use the firewall. This is a device level firewall. So if you guys already have a network level firewall, it's hardware, it's in place in your server rack, and you don't want to add additional firewall settings, you don't have to turn ours on. You can leave this off. But if you want to use that device level firewall, go for it. You can even restrict users from accessing certain websites. Or even applications. We can set up web control or application control, or of course we can exclude certain ones. It's a trusted application, that's fine. We can add that in here. But if I go to web control, I can choose to block users from going to certain types of sites or certain categories of sites, to make sure that they're not going to, inappropriate sites while they're using the school's computers, or sites that are known to have malware. Device control, we can actually, I mentioned earlier how you can go through and run a scan on a device if it's plugged in, like a flash drive, or you can just block them. You can block devices from being plugged into the computers. You don't want outside the flash drives plugged in, so just block flash drives. Even the user interface that is on the local machines, I mentioned how you can password protect it. I could set a password in here to make sure that any device that has that password applied to it can only be accessed with that password. If they don't have that password, they can't make changes to the ESET endpoint client.
Internet and endpoint threats are constantly evolving and can target your business at any time. Network Security Group provides ESET security products and the tools you need to protect your network. Call us today to learn how.